good music, good vibes. Only on 95.4, your home of intellectual swag, UJFM. Yes, it is the General Public Affair, and my name is Linda Khumalo, and today I'm joined in by beautiful young people, and we are about to have an incredible conversation, I believe. And as you know, last week we were talking about the South African inheritance or African inheritance. So conversations do continue, but before we jump in, I'm going to give them a platform to introduce themselves. Good evening, guys.
Good evening. Hi, everybody. My name is Princess Ncube. I recently completed my master's in international relations and political science.
Hi guys, my name is Dibakwane. I'm a black comedian. I recently completed no degrees, but I do have a metric, and let's see what it can contribute to this conversation.
Okay.
Hi guys, I'm Khethu. I'm a master's student at the University of Johannesburg, focusing on sociology, especially identity formation.
Okay, so let's get into the conversation. I'd like to know from each and every one of you, since we're talking the South African inheritance or African inheritance at large, what is the South African inheritance, or is there a South African inheritance?
Okay, I can jump in there. We do have a South African inheritance, but it's a dark one. It's a dark inheritance in the sense that, we sort of always, I think our inheritance is based on the very fallacious notion of a rainbow nation. So, we've been taught that narrative, and we continue to try to live that, but there's problematics in that the rainbow is flawed. So, we have a very strong inheritance of apartheid that is still manifesting today in South Africa through, racial outbursts, through segregation. So we still have it, but we don't want to address it because of the optics of our beautiful rainbow nation. So that's our inheritance. It's sort of a messy apartheid, racist, inequality system that we're dealing with in South Africa.
So
Princess?
For me, the South African inheritance or heritage has been over-romanticized. It numbs black pain. People continue to look at days like the National Bride Day, celebrating and all that. But we know that in actual fact, the South African inheritance is that of dislocation, where the native continues to be a pariah in his own home, where black people continue to have a heritage of resistance rather than that of existence, where they still identify as the other. They are not the citizen in this country. They are South Africans who feel like, what does this new South Africa mean for me? They don't feel like they are part of this new South Africa. That's the South African heritage for me.
And Ebenhaezer, my man?
my problem is that it's a very weird, if you're gonna speak of it as a rainbow, it's a very weird rainbow. Where ivory doesn't want to be next to blue. It's like, hi. Rainbow, this is a weird rainbow, busy calling the green carpet. Like, it's confusing. But it's spoken of as a fallacy,
Yeah.
And it really is. I think for me, mostly it's about the idea that in a lot of us, myself, I am what people will call coconut in inverted commas, although I know my language, obviously the language I'm most proficient in, if I'm honest, is the English language. And so I've always spoken the language. I've always been able to just express myself better in that language. And now in spaces where, although I exist in these white spaces and I access these places, you go for a loan and they're like, sorry, we can't give you a loan. I'm like, no, I'm right on the inside. I've got land somewhere. Spiritual land. But like, collateral, whatever. It's like we live in a space where we're supposed to just accept. And Carmichael, who was married to Miriam Makeba, and was one of the leaders of the Black Panthers, he used to speak about how freedom can never be given. Freedom can never be given. That's the fallacy. The fallacy was that we had our freedom handed over as a non-violent revolution. There is no such thing. A revolution is revolution, and there will be things that are turned upside down. A revolution means a complete turnaround. It's 360 degrees. I know if you look at it physically, obviously it just goes back to where it was. But what we mean is that it must turn upside down. That's to be, when we talk about radical transformation, that's the only way we will move forward. And what's happening right now is not radical at all. So our heritage, to answer your question, is a fallacy.
It's a fallacy.
It's a lie.
Okay, it's a lie. Okay, but from which perspective?
Yeah, obviously the perspective of the idea that we are this rainbow nation, the idea that we joined hands after 100 years of oppression, that we just joined hands and moved forward together. We didn't. People stayed where they were. They stayed in their palaces, while we stayed in the dungeons.
And the thing with this is that
just bring the mic.
Sorry. The thing with it is that the way we were told about the fall of apartheid, we were told the story that sort of like Mandela and everyone who was at the table had decided was the story to tell. You know, we weren't told the specifics of what was sort of signed onto apartheid. You know, we were waiting for, you know, Nelson Mandela to come out and say we are free, and he came out and said that, but we did not know the implications. We did not know the price, the freedom that we had to pay. So we thought we are free because, you know, we trusted Nelson Mandela, we trusted the ANC, we trusted our new black government. But of course, they weren't going to tell us the most hideous part about our freedom, that, you know what, we had to sell you out in order for you to get this freedom. Like, some of them are not here anymore to deal with it.
You said something. We had to sell you out. Like how we were sold out.
Yes. We were sold out in the sense that we're told we would be free, and we're not free. We're not free as South Africans. We have a beautiful constitution, highlight the air quotes. We've got a democracy that is heralded all over the world, but we cannot, when so many people cannot access that. You know, the fact that you have a right to legal presentation in a court system, but you cannot afford it, means that there's a failure in the system. The fact that we have a right to education and we cannot afford education. I mean, we cannot afford to go to UCT. Like, UCT is the dream of universities in South Africa. That's every aspiration, you know, that you get an acceptance letter and you think, wow, I've made it. And then the realities of like school fees that's over 100,000, like, there is no black middle class family that's going to be able to afford that. And you're not even getting a medical degree, you're just getting a psychology degree. No, my parents would never pay for that, ever. Yes, exactly. Like, if my parents are paying for 100,000, I had better becoming a doctor, somebody who operates, not a doctor who writes, a doctor who operates, or I am busy working at KPMG, I am a serious accountant. So, you know, so it's those things. We've got these rights, but we can't access them because of capital.
And what's your take, Princess?
For me, we have to understand that when we say the South African heritage or inheritance, it means different things to white people, to black people, to colored people. But largely to black people, it's a heritage of economic slavery, you know, as Khethu cited, that, you know, it's they had to sell us out to say, you know, we have to give you political freedom, but that political freedom was just a step to say, once we have the political power, then we can make certain economic decisions to empower the black man. But then we continue to be in that space where black people continue to suffer, where even culturally, people do not know who they are, where they come from. Right now, we are conversing in English because this is the heritage to say that Western languages are superior languages, you know. So it's about identity and identifying in this new South Africa, and people still feel like they're not part of this new South Africa. It is just an idea, a beautiful idea to say this is South Africa. It's, you know, where everyone has got access to things, but the reality on the ground, it shouldn't be normal to have ekasi. People are living in areas where there are not toilets. It shouldn't be normal, but it's normal because it's the new democracy. Everyone has got equal opportunities. Yet the reality is that people continue to live in bad conditions, and that's the heritage right there, where black man continues to suffer in this new South Africa. So really, the essence of the South African heritage is that of dislocation, and so Placky cited. So for us, you know, we continue to be the pariah.
The burning question this evening is, what is your view of the South African inheritance? Do hit us up on Twitter at UJFM, at Smurfzine, or hashtag the General Public Affair, hashtag African Inside. And you can also hit us up on WhatsApp on our UJ Teta number, which is 064-826-5800. But for now, good music, good vibes.